So, you're not sure what to bet? Don't worry, I got you covered. Welcome, football fans, gridiron gamblers, and every one of you degenerates. It's Mitch here with my last minute best bets for week 10. I'm talking spreads, totals, player props, teasers, and parlays. That's right, everything to make some money betting on week 10. If that sounds good, don't forget to spike the like button and show your love. Subscribe to Money Mitch if you like winning money betting on the NFL every single week. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. If you're thinking about a parlay and you just want my advice or my opinion, I'm here. All right? Let's talk some last minute best bets. And I want to kick it off with the early game. The Germany game. The game in Berlin between the Indianapolis Colts and the Atlanta Falcons. Currently, the spread is 6.5. The Colts are favored. I think a bet that I really like for this game that I probably will be making myself, and if you're curious what I'm actually going to be betting, that's on my Patreon. Link in the description. Link will be in the pinned comment as well. If you're curious, oh, did he actually bet this? Yeah. Okay, this might be something I do bet. I'm talking, we're going back to the well. We're going to go half final. So, halftime, full time, or a double result for the Indianapolis Colts. This is at minus 115, meaning the Colts have to lead at half and win the game, period. They don't have to cover 6.5. This is a bet that I'm liking entering this game. I do think the Colts will win this game, and I do feel pretty confident about that. I'm not so confident that they will cover, although I do tend to lean in that direction, okay? The reason I like the Colts here is two reasons in particular. One, Jonathan Taylor and the Colts offensive line running the football. The Colts should have success against the Falcons running the ball. The formula against the Falcons all year has been run the ball, don't pass the ball. They are the number one defense in attempts through the air, meaning teams choose to run the ball rather than pass against them. They are number one in pass yards allowed this year, and they are an elite pass defense. That has a lot to do with their young secondary and a lot to do with their hybrid scheme up front where they can send a lot of creative blitzes. I think they've had a really good addition. That defensive coordinator, who was formerly the head coach of the Jets, has done a great job under Raheem Morris this year. They did hit on a couple picks in the first round with Jalen Walker, James Pierce. They had a really good draft with Bowman and Watts at safety, and then we know what A.J. Terrell and Jesse Bates can do. So they do have a very talented overall pass defense, and although they gave up some yards to Drake May last week, they also caused a couple turnovers, and they got numerous sacks. So this is a team that the Colts don't really want to flirt around with when it comes to passing the ball at a high volume, right? The Colts did turn it over 5 or 6 times last week against the Steelers. They probably want to go back to Jonathan Taylor, go back to the bread and butter, and run the football. Just as San Francisco kind of proved to us, okay, you possess the ball, you get the lead, you run the ball, you run it right at the Falcons. That's the way to move it. That's the way to be successful. That's the way to beat Atlanta. On the other side, Atlanta is a run-based offense. Everything is based on the outside zone. First of all, I like the fact that Lou Anarumo is the coordinator for the Colts. Very smart guy. He'll have a good plan, I think, to take that away for the most part. But you couple that with the fact that this is a offensive line in Atlanta that could be missing both of their guards and also one of their tackles. So they already have their right tackle out for the season. He's been out for a while. That means one starter down, okay? Second, Matthew Bergeron, very underrated guard. He's ruled out for the game. One of the best guards in football, Chris Lindstrom, he is questionable and hasn't practiced all week. So he is highly questionable for this game. So that could be 3 offensive linemen out for Michael Penix and the Falcons. That's going to hurt Bijan running the ball. That's going to hurt them schematically in the run game. And that's also going to hurt Michael Penix's protection, who's a pocket passer. Yes, DeForest Buckner's out for the Colts, but I think they can still create some pressure. And who knows, maybe even Sauce Gardner plays a few snaps out wide for the Colts and helps them stifle Drake London in that secondary. So I think the Colts have a big bounce back game. Everybody's kind of looking at that Pittsburgh result. They had a bunch of turnovers. That doesn't repeat. I literally saw my Patriots the week later after turning it over against Pittsburgh 5 times, including like 3 in the red zone. They should have beat the Steelers by multiple touchdowns, just as maybe Indianapolis should have as well. They bounced back massive against the Panthers, 42-10 or something. So I think the Colts, they have that caliber. They have that ability. I think they'll bounce back. I think they'll win this game, and I think they'll start off hot running the ball with JT. So give me the Colts in a half final result, -115. Now, we've had some comments. Mitch, are we getting an extra point parlay? Shout out to that guy who left that comment. I laughed as soon as I saw it. Shout out to him. And we are getting an extra point parlay because you asked, okay? So my preferred parlay here is we're going to transition from the Colts here. Badgley, their kicker, to go over 2.5, plus Santos to go over 2.5, the kicker of the Bears. Now, I would wait until you see the weather for the Bears-Giants game, just in case it's unkickable. Just in case it's like super blizzard snow or like extremely windy / rainy, then maybe this is a little too risky to include Santos in there. But in the case that it's neutral, like wind, just like wind, normal weather in Chicago, I would go Badgley for the Colts over 2.5 extra points at -140. That's at least what I'm seeing. Plus Santos for the Bears over 2.5 extra points at -118, which is a pretty good price. That will give you a nice little parlay between the two. I think both teams score at least 3 touchdowns in their games against a weak Giants defense for Chicago. I think Ben Johnson runs all over this defense with his scheme. I do think Swift will be back, but Monangai looked really good last week. And then, like I said, I think Badgley, the Colts, the best offense in football this year. I think they have a massive bounce back in their Germany game. So give me him -140. Those two included would be the parlay. Some others that have my interest, Tyler Loop of the Ravens, if you want to include him, over 2.5 -145. It's in Minnesota. There is a little bit of respect for Brian Flores that I do carry personally, but the Ravens are a well-oiled machine. They are a train offensively. If they don't score 3 touchdowns in a game, it is shocking. So Loop over 2.5 at -145 if you want to add that or swap it out for Santos. I understand that totally. That would be a good play in my opinion. A couple others that I think are interesting is Matt Prater of the Bills. This is plus money, +120 over 3.5. So that means they have to score 4 touchdowns. But it is the Dolphins and it is Josh Allen. So the Bills score 30 a game pretty much. So I feel like that is fairly reasonable. The thing is, though, it's just 3.5 is a lot. Like, you have to score 4 touchdowns. And then Bates of the Lions is the same thing, +110 over 3.5. If you really like those teams to score a ton of points, I understand against Washington and Miami if you believe that. Maybe you just want to bet those together as like a long shot parlay. They're both plus money. Put them together, win some money. But yeah, those are the options I think for the extra points. I've been giving those out every week, and we've done not bad in that. So we're going to continue to go back to the well. We'll see how we do this week. Now, in terms of quarterbacks, okay, parlays for touchdowns and for other props. So one quarterback touchdown parlay that I like, we talked about the Ravens a little bit, Tyler Loop. Another way to play it is Lamar Jackson to throw over 1.5 touchdowns. That is priced at -175. That's not a great price, but we can include it with Drake May at -140 to get +169 odds. Get some nice plus money odds there. Drake May and Lamar Jackson. Lamar has yet to throw less than 2 touchdowns in a game, so that feels pretty certain that he's going to do that, especially against a Minnesota team that has kind of a leaky secondary. They blitz a lot. They're exposed for big plays. So I like Lamar, definitely. And then Drake May, I think, will have more success against the Bucs in the secondary than people believe. They're also without Ramondre Stevenson, which means McDaniels is probably less inclined to run the ball in the red zone. On top of that, right, you have the Bucks blitz a lot, which means, and they're very good against the run, right? They're a top 5 team against the run, which makes you less inclined to run it. And then also they blitz a lot, which leaves you exposed for big plays outside of the red zone where you could create explosives for touchdowns. And Drake May's the best deep ball passer in football. So I think Drake May once again throws 2 touchdowns. These are actually the 2 quarterbacks who last season didn't have a single game, not a single game, where they didn't throw a touchdown. That was rookie Drake May, right? And then Lamar Jackson last year, also as nearly the MVP, had every single game he scored at least 1 passing touchdown. And so did Drake May. So I like those 2 together, plus 169. Now, I also like Drake May to go over his rushing attempt prop at 5.5. He's gone over this number in 4 straight games. The Bucks are bottom 5 against quarterbacks when it comes to rushing attempts allowed. We saw somebody like Jalen Hurts run for quite a few yards and attempts. Drake May has been scrambling a lot because he's been under a lot of quick pressure. And I'd expect the Bucks blitzes that they send to get home, which means May might have to scramble. Also, I think that because of the blitzes, McDaniels might set him up with more boot action, which gets him out of the pocket and away from the blitz and allowing him to move himself. Also, May just tends to scramble for like 2 or 3 first downs that are pretty clutch in a game. So he just inherently likes to run, especially against good opponents and good defenses. So the last couple of weeks, they've played the Browns and they played the Falcons, some pretty good defenses, especially against the pass, and that's made him run more. Okay, so he's been taking some sacks, but he's also been running more. And he's done it, like I said, over in 4 straight in 6 of his 9 games. I think he goes over 5.5 once again, okay? And when we shift to another little quarterback touchdown parlay potentially, but another game I want to talk about. So earlier this week, we did our spread picks. And every week we do our spread picks. Typically on Thursday, I release that video where I give you my 5 favorite spread picks. And one of the picks there was the Los Angeles Rams minus 4.5. This spread now has almost made me feel like I should middle it because now I'm seeing a spread of the 49ers plus 6. That's the number I'm seeing, which honestly is kind of disrespectful to the 49ers in a series where the trends are so ridiculous for the underdog. Like, I think it's something like the underdog has covered in like 14 out of 15 or something. Shanahan against McVay as an underdog, like, is profitable on the money line, like, at a ridiculous rate. And it just feels like whoever is the dog typically actually wins the game, which is kind of weird in this series between the 49ers and the Rams, but the trends are so outrageous when it comes to this series, it almost makes you want to bet on the Niners. But when you dive into the first matchup, right, like the 49ers won that game as 8.5 point dogs on the road, and maybe they should have lost that game. Like, Kyren Williams fumbled, there was a field goal miss, like the Rams were kind of unlucky. It was the best coaching performance I've seen all season by Kyle Shanahan. I thought that was by far the best coaching performance I've seen all season, and they really got a lot out of nothing in terms of their personnel. Like, everyone was hurt in that game for the 49ers, right? And no one thought they could win that game. That being said, the 49ers just know the Rams really well. And yes, the Rams are probably the best team in football. They have the number 1 offense in success rate. They have the number 1 defense in EPA per play. Like, they are that good. They have the number 1 rushing offense in success rate. Matthew Stafford is the current MVP favorite. Like, they have Puka Nacua, who might be the best receiver in the league. Devontae Adams might be one of the best wide receiver 2s. Like, they are awesome, right? Like, they're healthy, all that stuff. They have one of the best pass rushes in the league. Like, there is no reason to expect the Niners to win this game again, and I don't expect them to win this game. But given how Kyle coaches against Sean McVay and how tight these games typically are, including many games where the Niners somehow get ahead and the Rams have to chase, the Niners are also a good home team, and I really do respect their underrated home field advantage. And when you think about the 49ers offense against one of the best defenses in the Rams in football, the Niners are well equipped to attack it in a way that a lot of other teams aren't. And the biggest reason is because of the quick trigger of Mac Jones, the scheme of Kyle Shanahan, and Christian McCaffrey. So Christian McCaffrey, a prop that I like for him in this game, is over his receiving yards, over 49.5. Last time he played the Rams, he had over 80 yards in this game, and I think he led the team with actually Kendrick Bourne led the team, but I think he had 7 or 8 catches in the game for around 80 yards, okay? Those aren't exact numbers, but I'm almost certain, okay? So when you're talking about McCaffrey, he works underneath. The weakness of the Rams is their linebackers in coverage. The strength of Kyle Shanahan's system has always been finding the linebackers and making them bite on play action, bite on the run game, and throwing behind it. On top of that, it's also, running and making those linebackers really think and stressing their zones. So Kyle does a really good job of flooding zones and just having linebackers just stressed, right? And the Rams really don't have great corners. I wonder if they do change their scheme in this game compared to the first matchup and they get more aggressive on the outside and they try to press coverage and be really aggressive on the outside, because that will allow the Rams to get home on Mac Jones, and that probably will be one of the things that they tend to do in this game. But I'm pretty sure the Niners will be prepared. They also have more weaponry in this game than they did last time, right? They have Jawan Jennings. They didn't have him last time. They have George Kittle. They didn't have him last time. Ben Barch is back, their left guard, potentially here, if he does even start. I'm not sure, because the other left guard, I think it's Brendel, has been playing pretty well. So I'm not certain he'll be playing. Kendrick Bourne played the game of his life against the Rams last time, and they couldn't cover him. So I would expect him to have another good game here. DeMarcus Robinson, former Ram, maybe he pops up with a play or two. And then Kittle hasn't really had that breakout game this year. This could be the one in the middle of the field, like I've said. So I just think that the Niners, in a lot of ways, the Rams are an elite defense versus most offenses, but against the Niners and the way that Kyle schemes, I think they can move the ball and score points, which why I think that the Niners +6 is a little bit disrespectful at home. Also, I think that Mac Jones over 1.5 touchdowns is a sneaky good bet. You could even combine that with Matthew Stafford over 2.5 at +140, 145. I could see Stafford and the Rams putting up high 20s, low 30s in this game against San Francisco. Now, San Francisco does get Bryce Huff back. That's a big deal because Bryce Huff's been out the last 3 games, and he has been their best pass rusher since Nick Bosa went down, by far, right? He was a force against the Falcons on that Sunday night, and they've really missed him the last couple of games. And without him, they have basically no pass rush. Their secondary is also healthier in this game than they were against the Rams earlier in the year, but of course they're missing Nick Bosa, they're missing Fred Warner. So the Niners, believe it or not, are healthier in this game, and they're the home team in this game. It's just that the Rams have played so well that they are basically the best team in football, and they're being measured that way. And even against a above 500 playoff caliber team in the San Francisco 49ers, they're 6-point favorites. So I just think 6 might be a bit too much. 4, 4.5, okay, I like the Rams there. 6 is a key number. 6 is a lot. And I do think both quarterbacks move the ball. I think both quarterbacks score. I think both quarterbacks throw touchdowns. And Mac went over 1.5 last time. I think at -120, that's a pretty good bet this time around. If you want to throw Mac, Stafford, May, and Lamar all together, all 4 of them, you could get, bet 100, win 1,000 type deal. So +1,000 for all 4 of those touchdown props. So that's a pretty interesting bet in my opinion. Okay, some other player props that I find interesting. I didn't mention this earlier. I should have. Jonathan Taylor over 92.5 rushing yards. I think that is a solid bet this week. I think he will hit 100. I think he will be the focus of the offense. Like I said, I think they will be in the lead, which means he'll be running more. And he is one of those backs where the more carries you give him, the more likely he's hit a 50-yarder, a 40-yarder. He's like Saquon. He's like Derrick Henry, right? These guys, as the game goes on, they just rip big runs off. And then Nico Collins. I couldn't find a good price on his receiving yards prop. If you can, sitting around 60, 62, somewhere in that range, take the over. I could find a 75 plus yards prop, which was at +125. I think that's pretty good because Nico Collins, the last 4 games against the Texans, has gone over 100 yards. Or sorry, the last 4 games against the Jags, I should say. He plays on the Texans. has gone over 100 yards in the last 4 games against this team. So that's a pretty big deal. Okay. So Nico Collins also, he got a lot of volume from Davis Mills. Sometimes a backup quarterback just likes to target his number one receiver like a lot, even more than the starter, just because they know how reliable that player is. It's kind of like Joe Flacco with Jamar Chase. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that Joe Burrow throws it a lot to Jamar Chase, but even more so, the backup just tends to just target like the Nico Collins alpha style wide receiver. Some other bets that are interesting. So talking about that Texans game, I think we talked about it last week. The Texans and Broncos to win by 1-6 win margin. We obviously hit on that because the Broncos only won by, I think it was 18-15 or something. So you would have cashed either way. If you bet the Texans and the Broncos, you would have won money, right? Because this week, the Texans are plus 310 to win the game by 1-6. If you want to do that for both Jacksonville and Houston, I completely understand. You don't really know who's going to win, but we do know the game's going to be low scoring. We do know it's going to be a field goal fest, and we do know likely both teams will be under 20 points. If that's the case, I mean, the game is probably going to be decided by under a touchdown, is it not? Like, there's always the case where it could be 17-10 and you lose. But that's pretty slim. It's more likely to be 17-13 or 14-13 or 17-16 or 13-10 or 20-17. In this game, I like the under. In this game, I also like Jags under 17.5 at plus 105. Plus money for the Jags to go under the amount of points that they scored at home against this defense. Yeah, give me the under, right? Like, they scored 17 at home against Houston the first time around. They're probably not going to score 20 on the road, even with a different quarterback, right? Davis Mills. So I feel like Davis Mills for the Texans. So Jacksonville plus money under 17.5. I think that's a pretty good bet. And like I said, Texans by 1-6, Jacksonville by 1-6. Texans by 1-6 is plus 310. That's a pretty good price. I actually lean Texans to win this game. In another similar type of game, we got Browns and Jets. Probably pretty likely that the game will be decided by 1-6. You could probably bet on both teams in a win margin bet and win some money. The Browns are sitting at plus 300. I like the under in that game. I also like the Jets under 17.5 minus 105. I think it's very unlikely that against one of the top 3 defenses for my money, against a top 3 run defense and against Myles Garrett, that the Jets score 18 points. It's very unlikely. Even if they win the game, they probably win 17-13, something like that, right? So I think the Jets go under 17.5. Jags go under 17.5. Both those games will likely be decided by 1-6 points, okay? And then some of the other team totals that I think are kind of interesting is Washington under 20.5 against the Lions. The Lions, they obviously had a disappointing performance defensively against the Vikings. I think this is a big bounce back game for them. And Washington just looks horrendous. Like, I don't think Washington will be able to run the ball. And this is the type of man coverage Detroit defense that's going to take away all the BS, like, stupid scheme plays that Cliff Kingsbury runs, like all the quick screens and quick bubbles and all that sort of stupid crap. Like, so Detroit, they play in your face, they play press coverage. Cliff's going to have to be more creative. I think beyond the run game, it's going to be a struggle in the drop back pass game. They just don't have Terry McLaurin. They don't have any receivers that can separate. Deebo Samuel's playing in quicksand. Like, I think it's going to be tough for Washington to score 21 points in this game. And then I also like the Bucs under 24.5. The Bucs has struggled to score in the last couple of games. They scored 23 against the Saints. They only had 212 total yards against New Orleans. And then they only scored 9 against the Lions. This is because they don't have Mike Evans. They don't have Bucky Irving. They don't have Chris Godwin. Yes, Luke Gedeke is back, but they're playing a top 5 Patriots defense when Christian Gonzalez plays. They're 4th in EPA per play. And I think the Patriots defense is a lot better than the general public believes they are. They're also the best defense against the run. So it's going to be a very difficult day. Baker is going to have to throw a lot. So I think that the defenses in this game are pretty underrated, Tampa and New England. I actually think the under is going to cash. And so I think the New England Patriots are actually going to pull off the small upset. I could see the Bucs winning, but they could easily win 24-23 or 24-20 or 24-21. So even if they do go, even if they do win, I don't think they need to score 27 or 28. They might have to. They might. But I don't think they have to necessarily. I think there are games at home with Todd Bowles' defense where they do win 24-21 against the Patriots. It's very possible. So under 24.5 is a very key number at minus 115 in that one. And to close it all off, teasers. I think there's some good teaser opportunities. There's a primetime teaser opportunity with the Steelers and the Eagles. We'll call it the Pennsylvania teaser. Primetime tease, you could take the Steelers up to 8.5, so from 2.5 to 8.5, and then the Eagles from 1 to 7. Maybe you want to, just to be safe, maybe you want to put a 6.5 point teaser on the Eagles to make it 7.5 and not to like land on 7, because that could happen. It's unlikely that the Steelers would land on 9. But I do like the Steelers and Eagles as part of a teaser. I also think the Colts are a good teaser, taking them down from 6.5 to 0.5 point so that they just have to win the game, as we've discussed earlier. I think the Lions are a good teaser, going down from 8 to 2 under a field goal. And I think the Patriots are a good teaser, going from 2.5 up to 8.5. So I think that those are all good teaser opportunities, and I'll be releasing my favorite teaser on Patreon. Those are my last minute best bets, guys. I tried to cover as much as I could. Thanks for watching. Gronk spiked the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and good luck on all your bets, jabronis. Peace.